What about Kong? Would Madison care about Kong? Will she be like super triggered like Godzilla is? Or will she just generally not care about Kong and just be like, I got no beef with you? I would say Madison will have no real beef with Kong because, well, honestly, to her, Kong didn't do anything wrong. Now, what about Godzilla? Will she try to stop Godzilla from going after Kong? Or simply stepping out of Skull Island and trying to find a new home? Well, let's begin, shall we? So, let's say that Kong will still get transported off of Skull Island, and Team Kong will be trying their best to get Kong to the Hollow Earth entrance portal in Antarctica. Now, Godzilla would try to get to Kong because he left the island. Because the only real reason why Godzilla went after Kong was, well, simple. Kong left the island. Godzilla wanted Kong to stay on that island at all times. Now, Madison would stop Godzilla, and she would get Godzilla to realize the bigger picture here. Like, she would get Godzilla to realize that Kong will have no real reason to leave the island, because despite Kong being able to swim, and face it, there's no way that Kong could swim all the way to Antarctica like that. Second, Madison would get Godzilla to realize that something drove Kong off the island. Like something serious must have drove Kong to leave his island. And so, for the first time in a long time, Godzilla would actually go to check on Skull Island in order to see what's going on with the island and what got Kong to leave the island. Now, once when he and Madison arrive, obviously Godzilla will see the massive storm that used to surround the island was brought in, but at the same time, he can also see Ghidorah's storm in there as well. And it doesn't take Godzilla long to realize that the storm was slowly destroying the island. As a result, Kong had to leave the island. And so, after Madison convinced Godzilla will officially decide to leave Kong alone and let him find a new territory. So this means that whole famous boat fight scene would not happen. Which means that Team Kong is still unaware about the second Godzilla. And that second Godzilla being Madison. Now, what about Mark? Obviously, Mark will be sending out hundreds of search parties for Madison. Because he is confused about two things. One, where did Madison go? And two, where did this new Godzilla came from? Because after watching the news, he would see the second Godzilla, and he would be like, wait a minute, I thought Dr. Zarazawa said that Godzilla was like the last of his kind. So where did the second Godzilla came from? Now, would this spark Mark into hating Godzilla? No. Because, well, he doesn't know what really happened to his daughter. And he doesn't know that Madison is the other Godzilla. So, yeah. Now, during this time, Madison and Godzilla start to become good friends. Godzilla will end up viewing Madison as a good friend to him now. But then anyway, she'll remind Godzilla of Dagon. For this scenario, Dagon was a really close friend to Godzilla. Like, he was a really good friend to Godzilla, and he died 15,000 years ago. So if anything, Madison would remind Godzilla of Dagon. Now, obviously, when the two of them sense Mechagodzilla, and when Godzilla starts swimming, and he stops and turns around and realizes that Madison is not following him. This is because, let's say that Madison hears a little bit of Ghidorah's roar in there, and this causes Madison to have a PTSD moment where she has flashbacks back in 2019. Ghidorah is haunting her memories, basically. This is where God will start to realize that something is off with Madison. And now, Godzilla doesn't find out that Madison was human, but he can figure out that something happened, or possibly Ghidorah did something to make Madison have this PTSD moment. And this is where Godzilla will start to actually comfort Madison by simply hugging her or just simply talking to her. Basically being like, hey, it's okay. I don't know what happened between you and Ghidorah, but I can obviously tell it did not go well with you. But look, he's gone. He's not going to hurt you. Plus, with me by your side, no one is going to harm you as long as I'm here. So, as long as you have me, no one is going to hurt you. I will always be here to protect you. And this would make Madison somewhat blush a little bit. And after calming down, she would eventually follow Godzilla to Hong Kong. Now, when they arrive, the two of them will still sense Kong's throne room being activated because when he put his axe down, he basically acted his axe's recharge cycle. And that got the attention of Godzilla in the current movie. Now, in this scenario, this would get the attention of both Madison and Godzilla. Godzilla would fire his atomic breath in the Hollow Earth, but Madison doesn't follow because, well, like I said before, Kong didn't do anything wrong to her, so she has no reason to actually be angry about this. Where Godzilla, on the other hand, has every right to be angry about this. Now, Godzilla realized that Madison didn't do the exact same thing. And at first, Godzilla would think that maybe Madison was not involved during the Great Titan War, and somehow did not heard about it. Or possibly she is a most likely traitor to the Titanis Gojira. So let's say that he comes up with scenario 1, where Madison had no idea about the Great Titan War and all those other Titanis Gojira dying by the hands of, well, the Great Apes. So as a result, God will be like, okay, since you didn't know about the Great Titan War, I don't need to fill you in. Maybe later. But besides that, you don't need to waste your energy. Now, what about the fight in Hong Kong between Godzilla and Kong? Well, this is what most likely is going to happen. Kong will be shocked to see two Godzillas, not one. Because he was told that there was only one Godzilla, he was never told that there was a second Godzilla. So this second Godzilla would catch him completely off guard. Now, the question is, will Kong sense that Madison was a human? Will he be able to sense it? Let's say yes. Now, Kong would not try to fight Madison, so as a result, he will be ignoring Madison and go after Godzilla. Godzilla will tell Madison to stay out of this fight because it's between him and, of course, the King of Skull Island. And let's say that Madison only enters the fight and someone joins the fight, is when Kong slices Godzilla's leg. So Madison will go in full-on rage mode and attack Kong. Now, with Madison being slightly faster than Godzilla, she is able to keep up with Kong. And as a result, she starts attacking Kong. Kong, not wanting to fight Madison, tries to get her away from him and go right back after Godzilla. But after Madison claws at Kong in the eye, or let's say at his chest, or whatever area that she aims at, Kong gets triggered and decides to beat Madison down to the ground. And of course, he would use his axe and possibly slice Madison, like rather on the sides of her body, or on the legs, or possibly on the arm, whichever one counts. But let's say, for the sake of this scenario, he aimed for the leg. Now, obviously, this would get Godzilla's attention, and he would get triggered and have his own PTSD flashback, where he saw a great ape using that axe on a member of his species. And Godzilla would snap a lot more sooner than he did in the movie, because the only real reason why he snapped was because Kong used the axe on him. And this is where Madison will realize that Godzilla was playing with Kong the whole time, and that Godzilla basically knew that he could easily beat Kong. Now, what about the battle with Mechagodzilla? Since Madison didn't waste a whole lot of energy, she will have plenty of energy to fight Mechagodzilla. And as a result, Godzilla and Madison will team up to destroy Mechagodzilla. After they destroy Mechagodzilla, Kong will eventually wake up, thanks to Team Kong's efforts of helping him. And of course, Kong will be informed that the Godzillas are not the enemies. Now, of course, Madison will convince Godzilla to let Kong go back to the Hollow Earth in peace. And so, that's what Godzilla does. He lets Kong go back to the Hollow Earth in peace. He does not pursue Kong anymore, and he and Madison go back into the ocean.